Welcome to Inside Marketing with MarketSurge, your front row seat to the boldest ideas and smartest strategies in the marketing game. Your host is Hansen, Chief Growth Officer at MarketSurge.
Hello and welcome back to Inside Marketing with MarketSurge. Let's talk about what can be one of the most emotionally charged experiences known to man, losing your hair. Today's guest is Paul DiMuzio, Chief Marketing Officer at Locklab, a telehealth platform offering a once-daily pill clinically proven to stop further hair loss and regrow hair. Paul has helped reach tens of thousands of people who looked in the mirror, saw the hairline moving backwards, and said, "Not today." Locklab's mission is simple but powerful. Make hair restoration affordable, accessible, and confidence boosting without awkward doctor visits or overpriced gimmicks. We're going to unpack the psychology of selling confidence, how to market in a space filled with scams and snake oil, what actually works in direct-to-consumer telehealth, and how persuasion changes when you're selling something deeply emotional. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Reed. Super good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, let's start with the topic at hand. Is at a high level, when we're talking about branding, is hair loss really about the hair or is it about identity?
It's actually about the hair. I think that I would be totally bald right now if it wasn't for this pill that I started taking, formulated by a doctor. I didn't formulate it, but I love selling it because I take it. And for me, I guess maybe on a deeper level, identity is part of it. Like the way when you look in the mirror, if that starts changing for you drastically and you start thinking, okay, like I'm no longer going to look the way that I kind of see myself in my head, then yes, I mean, you could say that's identity. I think it's also just sometimes hair. Some people look good bald. Like, I'm not going to tell Jason Statham to do anything about his hair, you know? Some people just kind of want it. Some people don't really care. Definitely, there's both camps. So we kind of mostly promoting this to the people who actually are concerned. Like, it's like they don't want to look different.
Yeah. Well, an elephant in the room. People are just listening to the audio. I am a bald man and I wasn't always bald. I was all the way up until about 23, 24. I had some coverage and then it started thinning more rapidly. But so I'm interested in this topic, and I've actually attempted some hair loss prevention and hair restoration in the past. But at a point, I think I was about 29 years old, I just kind of embraced it. Now, not to say that I wouldn't be open to different solutions. So we didn't talk about this before, so I just didn't want to put you in an awkward position of like having to dance around it. But
Well,
so you yourself, you were balding. How did
oh yeah,
your journey
I had a
go?
big bald spot in the back of my head. Way worse hairline. My hairline's not perfect now. I comb it
You
well.
look great. You're very full head of hair.
Thank you. But I got at least a half inch of my hairline back. So yeah, so I've got basically on hair loss on both sides of my family. By the time my dad was my age, he was totally bald. My mom's side also a bunch of hair loss. It actually doesn't matter which side of the family you get it from. It's just like a genetic thing that can be passed down either way. And so yeah, I started taking this because my older brother introduced me to it. Then my younger brother got on it, and then a bunch of our friends. And it was basically this combined pill of these medications that have been around for a long time with like a higher quality and a totally different, unique dosage that is just now coming to be understood as proven to be more effective. But Dr. Dan McGrath, who formulated this, knew forever ago, because he's just a genius. He knew forever ago that basically if you change the dosage in this way and you change the quality in this way, like it's just a game changer for hair loss. So, I mean, as far as like addressing the elephant in the room, you being a bald guy, like the reason that you could or could not get any hair back is basically there's like a few things that actually make this kind of work or not work. So it's how long you've been bald. So if you've been bald for 50 years, what that means is the follicles are actually probably dead underneath the surface. And so there's no bringing back a dead follicle. Like that's impossible. But if the follicles are still alive underneath the surface, then they can actually be re-stimulated through this medication and can sprout back up. So it's if you have alive follicles, which is basically how long you've been bald, and then your sensitivity to the medication. So like some people, their bodies just react extremely well to it. I have seen a couple guys with hair similar to yours that actually like got a significant amount of hair back, but that is much less common because most of the time when you are kind of baby smooth bald, it means the follicles are dead. But if you can have tiny little hairs, like if I was to take a microscope to your or a magnifying glass to your head, there might be a little bunch of little vellus hairs there, which are like thin ones that you can't really see, that this medication could also stimulate, and so that then they become like normal looking hairs again. And so like that's kind of what happened to me. I had been balding for like 5 years, but it wasn't like total. I wasn't too far gone, and so I was able to like recover a lot of the hair that I lost, and basically make myself look like I had a normal head of hair again. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you mind if I ask how old you are, Paul? Just curious.
39.
39. Okay. With the head of like a 21-year-old. I mean, very impressive.
Thanks.
Um,
Say
yeah.
millennials look younger. They look younger than any generation. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's sunscreen.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about what does being the chief marketing officer of this brand entail? Now, there's typical actions in the marketing function. Do you engage in advertising? What kind of decisions are you making around branding? And what's your external marketing looking like? And what do you do with like your web storefront? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a big question. The crux of our business for generating revenue is social media marketing.
Okay.
Uh, a lot of companies are going that direction. Advertising on podcasts and looking into doing TV and things like that, they can be helpful, but like so much money is made on social media if you just have amazing ads. And it's so easy to build a community and branding around that we've stuck there. And then also we have all these great comments on our ads, which we would never get from like a TV advertisement. We put this on TV, people could believe it or not believe it. But if you go and see a Locklab ad on social media, and then you have a bunch of actual patients like writing like, oh yeah, this worked for me, you should try it. That's really helpful. Because like in a nutshell, like as far as branding, we're basically selling the concept of this works, because a lot of guys, if they believe that, they're going to want to try it because they just would want to get their hair back or stop their hair loss. So it's basically how to position it as looking actually credible, which is a huge thing that we do with only using real patients in our ads. I'm sure we're the only company doing that because our product works so well. We can actually like scale that. And so we've hired one actor ever for like a background role for like a comedic part of one ad. Besides that one guy who's featured again in one ad barely, every single person who's seen a Locklab ad like actually takes the medicine. And I think that's so important in this space because there's so much misinformation and so many things that don't work very well. And people are just kind of watching these ads assuming it's fake. And I think if you watch enough Locklab ads, you're gonna come to the conclusion, oh wait, I bet these guys all seem real. Like this actually seem like real people. Like maybe this is actually legit. So as the chief marketing officer, I mean that's all of my idea. I'm the one who I founded the company with my brothers and Dr. Dan, and from the beginning that was a huge thing for us, just authenticity.
So,
Yeah.
you in your comments, you've mentioned a few target like personas, and I'd be interested in how you prioritize that. But you've talked about the skeptics that maybe have heard about other solutions and have not been happy. And maybe a second one that I'm guessing at is, as you mentioned, the formulation of your product is somebody that's tried a different solution and was not happy. Talk a little bit about those targets, because I'm sure there's a huge number of personas you could tackle. And I'm totally inferring from what you've said so far. How have you picked the personas you've settled on?
Good question. We basically market to ourselves, which
Okay.
is really, really lucky. Like I don't have to be that great at marketing to sell something that I would buy from myself, like because I'm a patient of this. I've got so many friends who are dealing with hair loss. Like I'm surrounded with like a bunch of like voice of customer research like in my own life and in my own head. So yeah, I mean we mostly market to the skeptics. That also pulls in the people who have tried like things before. I think probably about half of our customers have actually tried something that's maybe prescription, maybe over the counter, maybe like it's a nutraceutical. And so they're thinking, okay, I tried this one thing, so probably nothing works. And so even people who've tried things before, you're still kind of pointing out, hey, like this actually works. Here's like the research behind it. And yeah, so as far as personas, it's kind of like we make a lot of ads that are really entertaining, and a lot of ads that are really like scientific, like research, almost like a boring level of research, but we try to make it fun. And I think
Yeah.
combining those two things kind of, yeah, gets all like the dudes who are like, okay, I'm gonna believe these guys eventually. So yeah.
Interesting. Now, the you're selling your product through online channels, which is actually I don't know enough to say like to comment on like how new that is, but I do know. I mean, I remember like the Rogaine ads from my childhood growing up. It seemed like it was over the phone that was, or actually no,
Over the counter, like you go to Walgreens and get
okay.
Rogaine. Yeah.
Okay, so so retail essentially. Now, but you have a web platform for selling this. How did you settle on that platform and channel to sell? And how is that different from, I mean, do you have other, I mean, I know you have other competitors, but did you consider other platforms for marketing your product?
When you say consider other platforms, you mean like to actually make the final sale or to
Yeah,
market it?
yeah. Like, did you consider retail as well, or are there other potential marketing channels that are in the mix?
The prescription medication.
Okay.
So like we have several doctors who do prescribe this. We have some great relationships with some clinical practices. The majority is through telehealth, which is you go to our website and we're sort of a platform for this network of doctors who looks at your medical history and decides whether you can be prescribed it safely, which is, yeah, super great because it's like so convenient. Like so many guys wouldn't even try this if they had to go to their doctor. I mean, some would, but a lot of guys, they just want to make it really easy. Guys don't really like going to the doctor. So telehealth is, as long as it's done really safely and, like with like a lot of care for the patients, is a really awesome thing, I think, to get guys medicine that they need.
Yeah, and forgive my stumbling with the vocabulary. Thanks for putting a finer point on it. Um, so I imagine that there's some complexity when you're dealing with a prescription medication that is over. So it's like you combine like the optimization and the speed and efficiency that we have on web platforms, but you also have the complexity, the compliance, the regulations that you have to deal with of selling a prescription product. That is, impressive, and I'm sure it comes with a lot of challenges. Like what are some of the hurdles you've had to overcome to make this work?
We have an amazing team that figures out all the legality and then how to. Our CTO is a genius at taking what you have to have, which I'm not even 100% familiar with all the different like logistics, and like actually translating that to a good user experience. Yeah, our CTO is amazing. So I'm losing my train of thought, but basically, yeah. Can you rephrase the
Sure.
question
Yeah.
again?
Let me rephrase. So when we were, you consider all the things, so you've got the benefits of all the online tools that you have, but then you basically what I'm asking is like, what regulatory hurdles have been the hardest to make this a good user experience for buying?
Yeah, regulatory hurdles not so difficult.
Okay.
um, from a marketing perspective. It's sort of like if you go to your doctor, there's all these kind of things behind the scenes that they have to be careful of, but you're not really going in there hearing about a medicine and then like having a bunch of trouble getting it. If you have a doctor who's licensed to prescribe and he's able to like look, or she is able to look at your medical history and make a good determination, look at pictures of your hair, all that kind of stuff, make a good determination. The telehealth thing is probably really difficult on the technology side, which is why I mentioned that. But from a marketing standpoint, it's almost, well, selling a prescription is much harder than selling a non-prescription. So I can get into that. But
Okay.
otherwise, regulatory wise, it's not an enormous challenge for me as a marketer. I think for me the hard part is I'm competing with these inferior medications that are very easy to sell because there's no prescription involved. They don't mention the side effects or anything, because I mean all prescription medications have potential side effects. But these, if you sell a shampoo and you claim that it regrows hair, it's a pretty easy sell. as long as if you can convince people to do it, because you don't have to put their medical history in or really do much of anything. It just seems like safe and easy. Unfortunately, it doesn't really work very well, but like we're competing with a lot of products that are very easy to sell, if that makes sense. That's probably the
Yeah.
hardest thing.
Got it. Okay. No, that makes sense. And so, from a cultural standpoint, do you feel like that there is a cultural trend? So, this is for more of a branding question. Is there a cultural trend leaning in favor of natural is best, like embrace the baldness? Or do you feel like people are doing like looks maxing and like all these biohacks? Like I was just thinking of a guy, Brian Johnson. I don't know if you know this
Oh
guy,
yeah.
but he,
I
kind of wants to live forever. And, and he himself got has had some hair restoration treatments. And so he kind of like culturally like loops that in. What do you think? What force is stronger? Where are the winds of culture blowing? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think both men and women always, when they start like losing their looks,
Yeah.
whether or not they're actually aging super well. Like it's just when I say losing your looks, I mean like you just look in the mirror and you start looking different. So maybe not even losing your looks, just like changing your looks. I think wanting to get that back is always going to be culturally relevant. So yeah, as far as whether we're in a moment right now of looks maxing versus like the 90s where just like basically the worse you like the baggier your suit is, like the cooler you are, like the worse it fits you, like the better you feel about yourself. I think we're in like a little bit of the middle of that. Like there's like I think there's more like do you like there's more whatever like you like go for it. And there's always going to be a bunch of guys who want to keep their hair. I don't think we're in a specific moment though.
Okay. No, that's fair. And I mean, I'm sure you have to keep track of these things. And, I like you said, like you think like Jason Statham. I'm like, I want to be Jason Statham. I want to be,
Kind of look like Jason.
um,
You kind of
well, thanks.
doing it actually. Yeah, you got it going on.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and it is an interesting thing, and it comes up a lot. And I like in conversation, people will ask me about like, well, have you thought about this or this and people will give me compliments, and then I'll like never know like. Are you being nice or like or polite or I don't know. It's just like it just comes up. It's like it's
Well,
like it or hate it.
you keep your hair great. Like, I mean, if this is how you always do it,
Yeah,
I know like the people who like should do something about their hair, like should, are people who are lazy because
sure.
taking one pill a day is really easy. You can be lazy and do that. But if you like let it grow out, like what is it, Larry from the Three Stooges or
Three
whatever, like
Stooges, yeah.
you're not, you've got a nicely trimmed beard. You got like, honestly, the vest is kind of cool too. But like, you just have like, you keep your hair like slick and it looks good. Like that actually works. You also have a good shaped head for it. But
Well,
like
thank
lots of
you.
people out there, they look unkempt and they look more unkempt when they're bald because like their hair is, if you have messy hair that's kind of grown out and you're bald, it looks way worse than if you have messy hair that's grown out with hair. So those are the people I'm like, you should do something about it. But yeah, I mean, if you're like Vin Diesel, I mean that dude looks cool. So I
Yeah,
mean
yeah.
it really is cool either way for me.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, I wasn't fishing for compliments. I just, you and I, we've lived this, and we have like made decisions or taken actions. It feels like something you have to think about as a man, like it or not. Like you either, you can take a lot of different steps. I'm kind of curious too. To what degree do you feel like you compete with other alternate solutions for hair loss? I mean, do you attempt this or do you feel like that's just not even your lane? Now, by way of background, I have a friend of a friend essentially that, like many, traveled to Turkey and did hair implants in Turkey. And to me, it sounded a little bit risky, to travel internationally for that. I know I have another friend of a friend that had very expensive toupee manufactured, and so there's obviously like some other things you can do. To what degree are you competing with them, or do you feel like those are just alternatives you kind of ignore because that's a different lane?
Good question. So we have quite a few patients who've had hair transplants. I never had to get one. which is great. It is a major cosmetic surgery. But if you get it, so this medication was originally formulated for guys from a transplant surgeon. Dr. Dan McGrath he's the past president of the ABHRS, which is like the tip of the spear, like the very best of the best doctors who do all they specialize in is hair. And he was the president of that organization. So he made this so that if you're going to get a transplant, you get as much hair back first as possible and you get your donor hair really strong. And then if you stay on the medication after the transplant, which he encourages everyone to do, then your hair is not going to like fall out in weird patterns. Because imagine if like, I don't know, 5 years ago you had just a bald spot and you like got it filled in with the transplant and then you lost all the rest of your hair and now you just have like a patch of hair, like a bush of hair back here. So like you need to have this medication so you don't continue losing hair after a transplant. So for transplants, we're not competing with that. We are competing with misinformation of the people who think you don't have to have medication along with a transplant. But that in some ways takes care of itself because eventually people will start losing their hair after a transplant. We've got tons of people who've come to us and said, "Hey, what's going on? I thought this was permanent." And then they'll get on Locklab and it fixes it, which is awesome. I'm actually talking to a guy tomorrow who's thinking about doing an ad for us, and that was his experience. Transplant like 10 years ago, it started falling out. He was like panicking, what's going on? And thank goodness he saw a Locklab ad, started taking the medicine, and then like it's back to normal, which is great for him. As far as other treatments, man, so we're not really competing with like the natural method because
Okay.
again, like it sort of solves itself. Like about 10% of people, the natural method can help them because they have like a temporary form of hair loss called telogen effluvium, which usually takes care of itself anyway. So maybe they'll do some rosemary oil or something and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I got my hair back. And like probably they were going to get it back anyway because their hair loss was from stress or diet or something. We're mostly competing with like other prescription treatments. And I would say the biggest one is topicals, which I think part of the reason we're so successful is because topicals also don't work very well, and guys don't want to put them on their hair every single day, twice a day. And so the only companies that have something similar to us would be Hims, and then Keeps just came out with something, but both of those pills are actually weaker. So we're still in a good position, but I think probably at this point we're mostly competing. Mostly, I would say with Hims is the big one.
Okay. Also a prescription, is that right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I think I saw on your site yours is more potent in the active ingredient, if I recall. So, if you had to, I'm curious again, I want to go back to some of the tactics and marketing that you use. If say you were given an initiative, it's like we got to double sales, like what, and we can throw money or people or time at it. What levers would you pull? Like, are you spending more on ads? Are you posting more on social media? What levers would you really work, like invest more in?
Well, we're scaling at a nice steady rate, which is great. One thing that really helps is we're going in a little bit of a direction of kind of people who are semi-famous who are dealing with hair loss. And so just having part of our team is contacting those people. It's hard to like know who's losing their hair, but if you just reach out to enough people, like friends of friends and all that kind of thing, eventually you'll find some people. And I think when someone sees someone that they know who's got some amount or a lot of hair back with this medicine, then that boosts sales quite a bit because again, it's all about like people do want to get their hair back in general. And if they see like someone that they're a fan of who has done it, then they're more likely to purchase. So going in that direction more is the initiative this year.
Okay. No, that's great insight. Among my clients, I don't have any competitors or telehealth platforms. And so this is really interesting for a lot of the small and medium-sized businesses that I have that do landscaping or HVAC. And the reason I say that is because you're doing something at scale, you're doing something that's very brand focused. The companies I typically work with are struggling with differentiation or brand identity. And I think a lot of the things you've outlined could be helpful for them. And talk about real solutions, how it really impacts. What are the key core benefits of your platform and product? And in addition to being super interesting and problem that a lot of people can relate to, I've really appreciated everything you said. Now, Paul, if people would like to work with you, if they'd like to subscribe to Locklab, tell us where they can find you. What other links would you like people to visit?
Locklab.co, or if you just Google Locklab, we're the first thing that comes up. I think it took us like 2 years to beat this lock company that coincidentally, it's like they sell locks, actual locks. And like now we're ranked higher than on Google. So just Google Locklab or locklab.co. And I mean, we're confident this is the best chance people will have that's medically possible to get their hair back without any invasive surgery or wasting their time.
Fantastic. Well, Paul, you're a great speaker. I'd recommend you as a podcast guest to anybody. I appreciate you coming on. So,
Thanks.
yeah, my pleasure. Well, hopefully we can continue these conversations and stay in touch. This is super interesting to me. So thanks for everything.
Well, thank you.
Want to stay ahead of what's actually working in marketing right now? Head over to MarketSurge.io and see how we're helping businesses grow smarter, faster, and louder. That's MarketSurge.io, because your next breakthrough shouldn't be a guess.